$20. Free shipping. HelloFresh.com/Colin. I'm so excited for our next guest. 17 years in the NBA. Kyrie Irving's godfather. Coached on John Calipari's staff at Memphis and Kentucky. Rod Strickland was a tremendous NBA player who played on several teams. Let's bring him onto the herd for the first time. I was just leaving Portland, or entering Portland. He was leaving Portland. And I heard a story about you, and I've only ever heard this about one other NBA player, and that player is Bill Russell. Yep. Bill Russell is one of the great players in NBA history, and he vomited before every single Boston Celtic game, every single one. And when I entered Portland, and you were leaving, they're like, yeah, Strickland's great, but, man, he throws up before every game. And I'm like, well, no, that's what Rod does. Explain, my friend.
True story.
By the way, move that mic down. I want to see your face a little bit. There we go, right there. There we go. There we go.
Definitely happened. It's funny because, my whole career in New York and Washington and Portland, Minnesota, when I was a starting point guard, I always had nerves before the game.
Sure.
And it's funny, Juwan Howard was a teammate of mine on 3 teams. He was with the Wizards, he was with Orlando, he was with Houston.
All right.
So by the time I get to Houston, we in the locker room, coach is going over the game plan. I get up, go to the bathroom, I'm throwing up. The whole team is hearing it. They looking around, and Juwan is like, let him go. He's good. He'll be ready. That's just what he does.
Every time I throw up in my life, I'm so weak. I can't imagine throwing up and then guarding NBA guys.
Yeah, it was interesting.
It's just Bill Russell did the exact same thing. He had just nerves, anxiety, and by the way, Bill Russell was the best center in the league by a mile, and every game before the game he had anxiety, and some people do. Now, this is interesting. Kyrie Irving, you're his godfather.
Yep.
So you have insight to when LeBron and Kyrie separated. Obviously, they had success together. They won a title. Take us inside that relationship. Why did it break up?
Well, I don't know if I have that kind of insight. But, I just think it was one of those things where you had 2 great players. I think one of the players wanted a different challenge.
Yeah.
And I think he just had to move on to kind of realize that challenge. And I think you see it now.
Right.
He wanted to show the world that he could lead a team. And I think what you're watching when you watch Boston now, you're seeing some of that, because those young guys are playing well.
Yeah.
And it has a lot to do, I think, with the fact that Kyrie was there. And when he played, he let those guys play. So, he didn't come in trying to just dominate.
Right.
He had that system. They played together. But when they needed him, he would come through and he would be that dominant player. But he let those young guys play, and I think that's what you're seeing now.
Listen, a lot of great players are hard to play with. Michael Jordan wore out good players.
Right.
Kobe Bryant was tough to play with. I don't deny that LeBron is so overwhelming, he's hard to coach. I mean, tell me your appreciation for LeBron, but would he be hard for you to play with?
I don't know. I was a point guard. I like to give the ball up. LeBron is unselfish, but I think I played for a coach, and I'll never forget, we had a conversation about one of the star players, and he said every star player has some BS to him. That's just what it is.
Yeah, but you were throwing up in the locker room?
I was throwing up in the locker room. They had to deal with that. But, you go back in the history, Magic, probably Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas.
Well, Magic got a coach fired.
I'm sure
Michael Jordan got coaches fired.
But that's the greatness. You had Kobe. You had Shaq, but that's the greatness of those individuals, and he's won championships.
Would you hold it against LeBron James if he said, "Hey, man, I'm out of here again"?
No, I wouldn't. The one thing I like about LeBron is that he makes his own decisions.
He does,
and he's not worried about who cares or who doesn't like it, and I kind of respect that. And I would love to see him stay in Cleveland. Maybe try to bring another championship to them.
Well, he's going to need another player to do that.
Absolutely, maybe a player or two. But the fact that if he wants to move, I think it's a good thing too. I wouldn't hold that against him.
I was saying this earlier about Westbrook. I believe in a sustainable. You can see these rock bands, and they're great, but they're doing drugs. It's not a sustainable life, right? That's why U2 has lasted forever and the Beatles lasted forever. It's sustainable. You can go to Vegas and win 10 grand over the weekend, but that's not really sustainable income, right? Westbrook's style of play is great. I don't think it's sustainable. It's iso ball. They had only 13 assists last night. Now, he was amazing, and he was unstoppable, But I don't think Westbrook is easy to play with, and I don't think this is why he struggled in the playoffs. I don't think it's sustainable what he did last night. Give me your thoughts on Westbrook. I know you admire his talent.
Absolutely. I think you look at Westbrook and you put him in that category with Kobe and with AI. You know, those are two guys who had those strong wills and thought they could do it all by themselves.
Right.
And Kobe actually had more players around him, and he happened to win championship. AI didn't. And I think with Russ, he's a great talent, great player, obviously, triple-double machine. I think at some point he probably will have to reconnect and understand. He probably have to empower his teammates a little more.
Yeah.
But right now, I just think he's so connected that he can get it done. And, you know, that's the curse and the blessing of that. But I think there's room to kind of grow and kind of empower his teammates a little more and give up the reins a little bit.
Rod, you always like to distribute the ball. But take me to your early years in the NBA, 17 years, and your later years. When was the moment, Rod, when the light went on? And you went from being a talented young man to a man.
Right.
Like, was there a moment, a coach, an epiphany, a drive to work, a bad game? And what you're saying is with Russell Westbrook, eventually one of these days he's going to drive to work and go, okay, I can't win playoff series.
Right.
And like Michael Jordan, by the way. Phil Jackson went to Michael Jordan and said, by the way, Doug Collins had been fired, Stan Albrick had been fired, and Phil came in and said, you want to score 50 or you want to be a legend? Like, what do you want to do?
Exactly.
You want to be George Gervin? Or you want to be Bill Russell? So when was your moment?
Well, I think when I went to Portland, my game kind of went to another level. But I had a coach in Rick Adelman.
Yeah, Rick.
Who kind of, he made me expand my game. You know, he started me posting up. He had me coming off screens. You know, before that, I always had the ball in my hands making plays. And so he kind of helped me to kind of round my game out. But with Russ, I don't know. I think it's like you said with Michael Jordan. You know, at some point in time, Michael Jordan had to reconnect, and he had to say, these are the things I have to do to win a championship.
Be a little bit better team player. Give Steve Kerr looks. Scottie Pippen, elevate them.
He had to share the ball a little bit. And I think Russ, you know, I think this is all lessons for him. So now, you know, he had a great game, him and Paul George. But like you said, now you got to have another great game like that. And can you do that playing one-on-one?
I think Utah's style is more sustainable. I think it's a system, 6 different guys scoring double figures. Yeah. That's sustainable to me. You don't have to rely on one guy. By the way, I think Boston has an incredibly sustainable style. I just think they don't have Kyrie.
Yeah, but, you know, Boston is a great example. And I think maybe OKC can look at that a little bit. Because if you watch Boston and you see how they play Kyrie, you know, Kyrie plays off the ball. He plays on the ball. They have a lot of ball movement. They put him in positions where he can go one-on-one. I think Russ may have to understand, because Russ is so ball dominant. He brings the ball up court a lot, and he likes to take that first shot. And, you know, sometimes that can be fool's gold, because I don't know if that's the best quality shot. And so I think he has to help himself. Yeah. You know, maybe the game plan has to help them kind of figure out how to get that ball moving. Because it's a momentum game, and you can change momentum at any moment.
Okay. Before we let you go, Rod Strickland, 17 years, Kyrie Irving's godfather, coached under Calipari, Kentucky, Memphis. Go old school. Of all the stars, Russell, Magic, Bird, Jordan, Isaiah, I mean, you and Stockton had battles. Were you a Jordan guy? Who was your guy? Like, of all the legends, who was your guy?
I was Magic Johnson. I loved Magic Johnson.
Why?
He was a passer. He was an all-around team player. That was me. You know, I grew up no-look passes because of Magic Johnson. You know, I got friends to this day that tell me, man, you couldn't throw a pass without looking the other way. But that was all Magic Johnson. You know,
you had a lot of flash to your game.
I tried. I'm telling you, I tried to emulate Magic. Obviously wasn't, but I used to put his number on the back of my jerseys when I was little, you know, the whole Magic Johnson outfit. But Magic Johnson is my guy, and I don't think in history we give him enough credit.
I've always said if Jordan's the best, the gap between Jordan and Magic,
not that far.
It's not. Remember, he got to 9 finals. It's not his fault. Boston had a concurrent dynasty in the East.
Yeah.
By the way, Jordan got to finals against teams that never won: Portland, Seattle, Utah.
And Magic reinvented the point guard position. I mean, this is a 6'9" guard playing a point guard.
Do you remember guarding him?
Yeah, it was a problem. And no, but the funny thing about it, I was so in awe of Magic. there's no other player that had that effect on me. And I have a friend to this day who always tells me that I used to look for his autograph in the games. Like, I was in awe of him. It took me like 2 years to understand I was
So you
competing
really threw up before the game you played Magic.
Yeah.
I mean, you yacked all over the carpet.
Yeah.
You
Get me off of him. Let me guard somebody else. He was too big. But I think Magic, you could say MJ's the best. I think you could say Magic is the best.
Great seeing you and meeting you.
Great
Love
meeting
to
you.
have you
Thanks
on
a lot.
again.
Thanks a lot.
17 years,
Appreciate it.
Rod Strickland. All right, coming up next hour, we're packed. Brett Brown, coach of the Sixers. Can't wait to talk to him. Daniel Jeremiah, NFL scout, now works for the NFL Network. Mock draft. We'll talk about it. Last hour, we're packed. It's The Herd.
They say in New York,